So Japan has been very protected homogeneous market. That's very convenient for Japanese companies. Now look at, for example, NTT Docomo. Until 10 years back, the only country in the world which had the email on the mobile phones was Japan. People overseas were surprised that how can you have email on the mobile phone. 10 years back only Japan had it, and for a long time Japan was a leader in that. Japan had the world's best hardware for mobile phones and the best infrastructure for the telecom. But Japan stayed domestic because of the large domestic market. Companies like NTT or back then Japan Telecom or AU, they never cared to go out because it was so convenient. Just deal with a very homogeneous population here. You know, when you are launching a new mobile set, everyone is running after it, everyone, because it's very homogeneous population. Everyone is at the same level right now and they are all moving to the next level at the same time. So marketing was so much more easier. The same language, you don't have to make a multilingual mobile phone, and you are also protected from the overseas because of no one else can compete with you because your country is quite protected because of culture and language. So it was a very convenient country. Japanese countries did not try to go out, and that has become the weakness of Japan now. So as I see it, Japan's strengths, because of Japanese economy being so strong, has become the weakness of Japan now, because Japan become too comfortable by itself. Now in the present time, first of all, Japan's domestic market is shrinking because of shrinking population, but I don't think it's a big immediate challenge. It's world's huge. Well, now third largest economy in the size, but per capita it's still very far above. As among the large countries, this is still the world's second large, the best per capita economy among the large countries. But what has happened is that the global competition has come at home. Now on the mobile phones, we have got, well, hardly anyone is using the old mobile phones now. People are jumping into the smartphones, and they're all coming from overseas primarily. Like BlackBerry started here, now iPhone came, now Samsung, now there's so many. Nokia has come in. 5-7 years back they were not here. So now the advantage that Nokia, Samsung and iPhone have, that they have got a global market covered. So when they launch a small new application on the iPhone, that gets accessed by the whole world. So their economy of scale is huge. So their leverage is huge. So it's very difficult for the Japanese local market to compete with them. Technology has become so much easier now, computer technology, software technology, that making multilingual platforms is not difficult at all. So if iPhone is launching an application in US, it's so easy for them to port it, localize it to Japanese language. It's not so difficult anymore because there are so many easy ways, ready-made platforms for converting languages on the software platforms. So now all those global companies have come to Japan and they have become the competitors here. So now Japan has to compete with them, and the only way to compete with them is to go global. So that's where a big change of time for Japan is. It was a very convenient domestic market until recently, but now Japan has to really go out and become global. But in the process, when Japan grew, as we know, Japan has got huge companies. The very few mobile phone operators, for example, each of them is huge. So these large corporations have an advantage. It's not bad to be large, of course. Every company wants to become large. Being large means you have got, for example, I'm an entrepreneur, so I know what difficulties an entrepreneur faces. When I am dealing with a client to sign a legal contract, I don't have a lawyer in-house. It's a small company. So I have to depend on my common sense maybe, or maybe ask a friend, or maybe ask someone who is half expert in the law, somehow manage it. A large company, they have got hundreds of lawyers in-house, expert in every little domain. So large companies have those advantages. They have got everything, every expertise in the organization. The economy of scale, again, the same concept that we talked about, one-to-many. So it's nice to be large. Japan has many large companies. But the negative part of being large is that you become very inertial. It becomes difficult to move. You are not nimble anymore. You are not flexible anymore. And that happens with every large company. So that's what has happened with Japan. It's again, everything has a plus and a minus. So Japan on one hand has got very nice, well organized, large organizations, but on the other hand, they are very inertial. They are very inflexible. But when we are talking about the new globalization, as I emphasized on the speed of information, speed of travel, speed of making new business alliances. You can ship your products easily overseas. You can receive products or components easily, build a new product easily. The speed has become much faster. So the competition is also very fast. So you need to be very flexible and fast now than before. So that's where you need new ideas, new business models. And these large organizations are not able to do that easily. They have got their advantages and strengths, but they are not flexible, they are not nimble, they are not dynamic. And that's where there is a need and opportunity for entrepreneurship. So especially when you are talking about the new business ideas and new business models, and globalization is full of those opportunities, that's where we have a role to play. Talking about entrepreneurship. So as I mentioned, for globalization, you need to be nimble, you need to be fast and dynamic. But in Japan's case, it's too structured. And then again, Japan also is partly cultural, partly economic, that Japan has a big stigma of failure. Failure is not easily accepted. For entrepreneurship, like as Silicon Valley or in US, you talk about serial entrepreneurs. It's so common to hear that someone has failed twice in trying to run a company and now is third time trying it, and people accept it easily. But in Japan, that's not the case. If you fail once, it's not easily accepted and you are not easily allowed to stand up again. So there's a big stigma of failure. So people are very risk averse. They don't take risk. They try to stay in the system, just follow the process, which is good enough, which has been good enough at least so far. Work in a large organization, just follow the process and the whole organization moves on, creates economic value that everyone shares. It's a convenient, comfortable country. But now that's not working that well. So stigma of failure is a big issue for entrepreneurship in Japan. And then lack of institutions for ventures. This venture capital. Well, again, that relates to the stigma of failure. People are not willing to take risk. The investors are also not willing to take risk. So investors are not investing into the new business ideas which are of high risk. Very few of the new businesses survive actually. So it's a high risk business. And in Japan there is not enough venture capital or support infrastructure for ventures. Well, talking about India as an example, I know many countries will fit in this model, but in India's case at least, as an example at least, it's a very dynamic and a volatile country as well. Dynamism and volatile. Well, volatile is a little negative nuance, dynamic is positive, but pretty much two sides of the same coin. In India, because it's dynamic, there's so much of chance for success. You can come up with so many new ideas. The economy is full of new opportunities, and if you got a new idea, you got a right idea, if you have got enough resources, a good team to work on it, the good chances of success. But India also at the moment has a similar issue as Japan. There are limited institutions for ventures. Lots of venture capital is coming into India, but there is not enough of the management capacity in India for building the new institutions. But it's happening, slowly it's coming up. Now, in the case of India or Japan, this is important. Entrepreneurship lately has become a very fashionable word. People talk about entrepreneurship that as if that is the only way forward, and big organizations are bad, they are evil, and everyone must become entrepreneur. But that needs to be properly evaluated. In the case of Japan, look, think of as an individual in Japan. a fresh graduate in Japan, has got an opportunity to go and join a large company and live a comfortable life. Doesn't need to take too much risk. His life is ensured. He will get good food, good living standard easily. No need to work hard too much. So, in Japan, what may drive entrepreneurship? I believe that can be a dream. In Japan's case, as an individual at least, as a country, there is a need for entrepreneurship. But for an individual, there is no need for entrepreneurship. An individual can easily live a good life, good quality life, without getting too bothered. Entrepreneurship is not easy, to be frank. A lot of headache, a lot of hurdles, a lot of hard work is needed. So an individual in Japan doesn't need it, but he may be inspired by the dream of doing something new and big. And that, like for example, Mikitani-san of Rakuten. He also, he could have continued to work in the large organizations, have led a comfortable life. But it was a dream that inspired him to build a new organization, go entrepreneurial. We are seeing more and more of those examples nowadays. In Japan's case, it has to be a dream, it's not a need. But in India's case, there is still a need for entrepreneurship at an individual level. Many people in India, if there are not many good jobs, not many large organizations in India. Many people can become really rich if they take an entrepreneurial route, or if they don't try entrepreneurship, they may end up with a very mediocre lifestyle or even substandard lifestyle. So in India's case, there is a need also. So we have to see the psychological motivation for entrepreneurship. Dream also, of course, in India there is a big dream possibility also for entrepreneurship, but it's also a need. Survival or ambition. In India's case, well, entrepreneurship again has to be, psychologically it has to be looked upon as taking on a challenge. It can be the challenge within the organization also. Actually, one important point, all the foreigners who are here, leaving their own country, they are entrepreneur in one sense at least, that they have taken on a new initiative. They have left their comfort zone, their families, their hometown, their friend circle, and come out to a different country. So, all the foreigners in general have a entrepreneurial spirit who are here in Japan or any country. Going abroad is entrepreneurial thing in the basic sense. So that implies an ambition, and that also implies sometimes an issue of survival. Sometimes back in developing countries, economically, it's not very attractive to stay back, and people like to go out. Risk or opportunity. They are again two sides of the same coin. You have to take risk to try to make something big, to achieve an opportunity. Well, opportunity means that it's not for granted. You have to strive and take some risk to execute it, to implement it. So those are certain aspects where the psychology of entrepreneurship between India and Japan needs to be understood. Now if you put India, Japan and the concept of entrepreneurship together, you look at India, India has got a very young demography. The average age is 26 years old. In Japan, it's very aging demography. So along with that, the nature of market is also very different. In Japan's case, it's like a matured economy, not much new happening, not much scope for a new market altogether. Yes, the continual improvement in the market, but nothing new or revolutionary is happening at the moment. But in India, it's happening every day.